Once you have recognized the emotions you are experiencing, the idea is here you learn to balance them. Think that emotion is a psychic force that subjects you to a state from which it is very difficult for you to get out, especially when you have faced a trauma which leads you to stay in that psychic trance for much longer than you should. So, the idea here is to help you balance your emotions. Let's think about sadness, the first emotion we work on in the emotional recognition section. Imagine that your psyche is a kind of liquid contained in a glass, which would become your body, and suddenly another liquid is added to that glass in large quantities, the liquid of sadness. This liquid is at a very low temperature. What do you think is happening to your psyche? And even more so, in this metaphor, what do you think happens to the glass? The entire system is altered, right? Well, that is what happens when, due to trauma, you are exposed to a situation that subjects you to a state of sadness. Your psyche was fine, you were happy, you were balanced, but suddenly someone adds a kind of new psychic component that makes you sad. That is why many say that when faced with situations of this type, it is as if someone had thrown a bucket of cold water on them. Now, given this frame of reference, how do we control that cold water liquid that someone has thrown at us? That liquid that not only affects our psychic system, but also begins to affect our body. That's why I used the figure of the glass. Because when we add hot or cold water, the glass also becomes cold. And in the case of your body, it also begins to feel the consequences of the sadness you are experiencing. So I return to the question, what do we do when the glass is very cold or the liquid is very concentrated? If you were at my office, I would let you find the answer for yourself. But for the purposes of this program, I am going to assume that you already found the solution. Well, clearly you have to dissolve that psychic liquid, adding another psychic liquid that can counteract the sadness that you are feeling. Question: what do you think is the psychic liquid that will counteract the liquid of sadness? Of course, the liquid of joy. As you can see, we are adding the opposite effect so that the emotion can be balanced. And that is precisely what is done for the frame of sadness. What you are going to do here is write down in the respective table which are the moments that have caused you the most joy in your life. I want you to induce memories that lead you to recognize that there were moments throughout your existence in which you were very happy. Let's leave sadness behind and think about moments of joy. Now, those memories must be associated with your own happiness. Ideally, you can think of things that make only you happy. And it doesn't have to be something from the real world. It could perfectly be something from the world outside the one you live in, or even from the imaginary world. And you're going to write down all those memories in the corresponding box that I leave here. Memories of peoples or beings that motivate you. Thoughts of things that motivate you from the imaginary world. Memories of joy and happiness. For example, I have told you about my dog Winston, and I am always thinking about the joy he brought me. That would be in relation to the elements of my internal world. If I thought about elements of the external world, I might think about going to see Formula One in Monaco, something that I would like to do. If it were something from the imaginary world, I might think about Alf, the alien. In fact, when I am sad, I think about how much Alf made me laugh at one time when he stole the car from Willie, the person he lived with, and when he was driving down the road, he was yelling at other drivers. That doesn't fail in my case. Well, if you look just with those three dynamics of thought, I already changed my mood. So the idea is that here you can develop your own repertoire of happy thoughts, which you can activate automatically at the precise moment you feel sad. The more you exercise this, and the more you have a greater repertoire of happy thoughts, I can assure you that your state of sadness will decrease considerably because you will be yourself who is going to induce that state of balance once the sadness is manifested. Here, the issue is not that you stop feeling sadness, but as you saw with the example of the glass and the liquid, that you can be the one who regulates the weight of the emotions you are feeling. If your sadness remains at 2 and does not go to 10, you will notice an enormous change in your existence. But remember that this is just one circuit of several that you have to work on, so that you can have the complete psychic balance that you are looking for here.